My Health Up podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Hartcher, a clinical nutritionist and lifestyle medicine specialist. The purpose of this podcast is to enhance and enlighten your well-being. And today I'll be doing that for you on the show. And we're going to be talking about the integration of relationships, making relationships feel more connected and why they disconnect. And this came about through a article I read about the youth, the young generation, the Generation Z, that are feeling more and more lonely. And I'm thinking, this generation, the most recent generation, or probably not the most recent, but the Gen Zs certainly grew up with technology. They had a whole life around technology and social media. So it's the social media generation. And social media is all about connection, right? So, you start up a social media account, you connect with all your friends, and you stay connected. Yet they feel and how people view someone else's relationships with life and the world. It's how you feel on the inside. So it's, whether you perceive yourself feeling connected or disconnected. Now, if we talk about social media and the connection via social media, what it drives is we're constantly updated. So we're constantly updated with our friend circle on the highlights of their life, the good side, right? And so we think, okay, we know everything about what's happening in their life, but we don't. We don't know the shadow side, the other side that's not so good, that is a bit more challenging. We only see the highlights reel. And so we assume that we know everything that's going on in their life. So what's the point of catching up in person? I sort of know where you're at and what you're doing and where things are at, and really nothing to talk about. But the thing about connecting in person is when you allow the space, you will actually allow the opportunity for the other person to share what's really going on. If we catch up, via, quickly and how you going? Oh, good or good. It's because the other person realizes you don't have time to hear me out. I realize you're busy and I'll let you get on with your day. Whereas when you sit down to chat over a coffee, over a beer, whatever it might be, a cup of tea, a glass of water, or you go on a walk and talk, there is the time element, the time to allow someone to feel comfortable to bring up what's challenging, where they feel that life is overwhelming, or they feel like they're just not coping. And so you get to hear out the other side of the person by catching up in person. And so we don't want to assume that we know what's going on in everyone's life. We only know one side of their life. That's the highlights, all the good stuff, right? But the ultimate connection will come through the support and the opening up and the trust that's built through opening up about the other side, about the shadow side, about the difficulties. It's That's where we really connect at a deeper level. We connect with anyone through common ground. We're looking, when we go out in the world, we're looking for ways to connect. It's just a natural way, because when we feel a sense of connection, we feel life, we experience life. When we feel disconnected, we we feel this sense of withdrawal, loneliness, isolation in a bubble. And to really experience life, it's best experienced, or ultimately experienced, through the sense of connection. And so that's why when we go out and we start conversations, we're looking for points in common. And this is why we share some basic things about us that are not too revealing, such as, what do you like doing? What are your interests? What do you do as a job? These things that take up time, that you spend time doing, reveals a bit about the person, but not too deep and not too scary. Not You don't need a much element of trust. You're willing to let go, like you're willing to, yeah, allow that information to be out there because it's quite comfortable. Because I do this job, I like this interest. You're not sharing the dark side, the uncomfortable side or the shadow side. And so we're looking for those points of connection in order to relate. When we start to relate, we feel connected. We develop oxytocin. Oxytocin is this sense of connection. We feel it in the inside. It's the feeling inside, a subjective feeling inside that we feel connected with the other person or something else that we do. We can get connected with pets, we can get connected with nature. It's whatever we're connected with. You can get really connected with your work and get a sense of oxytocin. But it's that feeling of integration between yourself and the outside world. And we do this in relationships when we're getting to know someone and we look for what's in common. And that connects us. And then we feel that we start to get to know that person and we start to reveal over time more and more about ourselves because we get more comfortable and we're building a trust bond between, and oxytocin's building up on the inside and it's building up on the inside of them. And you feel this ultimate more connection and hence you're willing to open up more. So the more time we spend with someone in person, the more we're going to better understand them, better know who they are. They're not the person on social media. That's one side of them. The full person, the whole person, is found out through spending time in person and connecting at an energetic level. Yes, you can sort of do a bit of energetic connecting, but not at the deepest level. In order to really get to know someone, we need to connect at the deepest level, and that's done in person. And so don't assume that you know someone or know what happening in someone else's life by just looking at highlight reels and social media. Actually, get really to know them by spending time with them in person and allowing that deeper connection to come up through sharing more and more uncomfortable stuff. And through the uncomfortable stuff, the connection between one another deepens. It deepens, it goes to another level. More trust is built, more oxytocin you feel, the more connected you feel with that other person. Now, some people are a bit scared of revealing the other side of them because it can think, am I going to lose this person by letting them know who I really am? And ultimately, if the relationship's meant to evolve, it will naturally through the other person being open to knowing all about you because they're they're not just interested in the highlight reel or one-sided, the side that they like about you. They're interested in the whole you. They want to connect at that deepest level, and that's recognizing that the person has another side. And so this goes on with the relationship with you and the outside world. So there'll be a side within you that you don't want to reveal, and you have guilt and shame associated with that side about you. However, what happens is we constantly see that side of us in the external world, right? Because we have these things called mirror neurons. Mirror neurons were discovered, mirror, as in the mirror, neurons were discovered in the 1990s when they were doing an experiment on monkeys. And what they found is that when monkeys were observing other people's behavior, that both brains were lighting up in the same areas. So the monkey was relating to what the other monkey was doing through observing their behavior, through watching and observing their behavior. And they were able to stimulate the same parts in their brain through that observation. And so they were doing a reflection of what the other monkey was doing. And we as humans also have these mirror neurons. And so when we see someone doing some behavior out in the streets that we have guilt and shame about inside of us, then we start to feel that guilt and shame. But we think it's them, but it's a part in us that we haven't owned and loved. And so when you feel this guilt and shame through observing other people's behavior that you're now judging, you're actually judging a part of you that you haven't loved and haven't owned. And so if you keep ignoring this, it will keep popping up and you'll keep running into these people and they'll keep frustrating you. But it's you, right? It's not them. If you owned and loved that side of you, that behavior that you did in the past that you're judging, and saying it was bad and no good, and feeling guilt and shame about it, that is a constant reminder when you see other people doing the same behavior or act. And ultimately, it's there to help integrate you. And so when you own and love it within you and see the benefits of doing that, that it is just behavior. It's only because you pass judgment, and that past judgment could be based on other people's values, or on societal values, or on religious values. It could be a judgment coming from the external world. But if you just see it is as it is. It has an upside and downside, just like every behavior that we do. Even the behavior that we assume is good has a downside. And so sometimes people can think, when we're altruistic and we're constantly doing things for others and doing good, that is just good. There is a downside, because when we're doing something for someone else, we actually we're taking away a sense of empowerment to that individual, and we're disempowering them in a sense, because they become reliant on us. And so it doesn't enable that other person or other association or society to flourish, because they're constantly dependent on these outside help to enable them. Whereas if you don't do the good acts according to society and say, no, you guys sort it out yourself, they have to get resourceful in order to solve that problem and find other ways around that problem. But by doing that, it empowers them, and they grow, and they become more accountable for their own life. And so don't think that doing all these good Samaritan acts are all good, right? There is a downside. It is disempowering. It You get the empowerment through the struggle, through looking for other ways to do the activity or the behavior or whatever you need. You find another way of doing it. It's like when we're in the wild back in the prehistoric days or whatever, if something wasn't available, we'd go looking for something else as a substitute in order to survive. And so we get more resourceful, or we come up with different ways of fulfilling a need. So during COVID, we were quite restricted as to what we could do, but we found other ways to provide that fulfillment by being resourceful. And we actually, like, the QR code was in existence before COVID, but it just became widespread during COVID because there was a need for it. We needed another way to connect without physical contact, right? We needed to pass information without physical contact or whatever. We did it through QR codes and passing information in the digital world, right? Contactlessness or whatever it's called. And so it what I'm getting to is, when we judge our own behaviors and think they're all bad, they're not all bad. There is an upside to doing what we did. If we said no to someone and we said that they have to figure out the problem themselves, don't feel guilty about it. It's actually empowering for them. They actually get resourceful, creative, and find other solutions to resolving that issue. And they become more empowered, and they build up a toolkit of life to deal with life, to manage life. So if they encounter that again, they're resourced in order to deal with it. So, but if we keep doing things for someone else, then they're reliant on us. What happens when we're not there? They fall in a heap. So we can do this gradually by saying no and allowing other people to grow and develop, and don't feel guilt and shame about it. So this is part of this thing that we just become, we judge things based on other people's values, society values, religious values, and we then feel guilt and shame for doing it. But there is an upside to it. And we want to find that upside in order to dissolve that guilt and shame in us, so that we stop judging it in the outside world. We stop seeing it in others. We don't see it in others once we've loved it within ourselves. There's no judgment to pass. It is what it is. You can see, you understand why that person is doing that behavior because you did it prior, and you can see an upside of doing it, right? as opposed to thinking it's all bad. So, this is part of the integration of you and the integration of you with the external world. And this is the ultimate sense of connection when you're constantly working to integrate you, loving every part of you so that you can love everything as it is versus judging and wishing it was different and being frustrated because it's not how you want it to be. um, so I just really wanted to conclude here is to say if you want to feel more connected and less lonely, there's a journey, there's a process. The process begins with connecting with others, spending more time with others, sitting with others, allowing that connection to naturally evolve. Just sitting with someone, they start to feel more comfortable over a period of time, and more information will come out, and they'll reveal more. You'll reveal more about yourself. A deeper level of understanding of one another will come about, and you'll develop a deeper connection with one another and a deeper connection with yourself, because you'll be able to relate to the other person in terms of what the dark side they're sharing. You'll be able to understand, oh yeah, I've also, experience guilt and shame around that action, or yeah, I felt it this way. But in that growth between one another, you can share how how did that serve the other person that you feel guilt and shame about in terms of what you did. How did it serve them? How did it serve what they value, what's important to them? And when you start looking for these answers by asking these questions, you start to develop a better understanding of that the action is what it is. We just judge it based on expectations of others and how we were brought up. It's not all bad. And you'll see this with your intimate relationships, is that you connect initially through things in common, right? You develop and you focus on those things in common. But the longer you spend together, you start to see the other side of the person. And that can result in the unraveling of the relationship. It can. Or it can result in the deepening of the relationship when you start to see the whole them and start to love ultimately who they are as a whole being, as opposed to just loving one side of them. So this can really take relationships to the deepest level by allowing that other side of them to be revealed and not condemning it, not judging it, and seeing how it serves you and what's the benefits to you of them behaving this other way that you've judged in the past. So, if you want a more integrated life and more integrated relationships, more and a more sense of connection with self and a connection with others, please reach out. I'd be happy to coach you through how to go about shifting your mindset to broaden your perspective so that you feel so connected with you and the outside world, and that you can go on this journey and keep evolving yourself so that you feel this ultimate sense of connection to everyone and everything. That's the journey of life, is to feel one with everything and everyone, to feel at one. First of all, you need to feel at one with yourself, and then you can start to feel at one with the outside world. But the outside world can remind you of what you're not feeling at one with, at peace with within you. So if you need help in this area or support, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to coach you through it. And thank you for tuning in to another insightful episode of Me and My Health Up. Please share it with others that could benefit, that might be feeling lonely or disconnected in this world. And this might be a revelation to them as to why they're feeling disconnected and how they can go about improving that connection with self and others. Thank you once again.